Welcome back to another episode of the Braun Performance and Rehab Podcast, powered by ISOFIT and Firefly Recovery. ISOFIT is my go-to for all things isometric strength training. For more on ISOFIT, be sure to check out isofit.com. Episodes like this are made possible by Firefly, the official recovery provider of the Braun Performance and Rehab Podcast. For more on Firefly, be sure to check out recoveryfirefly.com. This episode is powered by Dr. Ray Gorman, founder of Engage Movement. Learn how to boost your income without relying on sessions. Get a free training on the blended practice model by following at Ray Gorman DPT on Instagram. Joining me today on the podcast is Richie Cortes. Richie and I got connected by our mutual friend Todd, also known as the Cajun Cowboy, who was on the podcast earlier this year, diving into his story around American Ninja Warrior. Richie and I are going to dive into the same today. We talk about Richie's experience in Ninja Warrior training. We talk about some of the injuries he faced from a hamstring to a tricep and beyond that way. And we talk about all the other endeavors he's pursued along the way as well, from a rap career to a career in the video game industry to owning a gym and beyond. This was an incredible episode, and I really appreciate Richie's time and journey. Enjoy. Richie, welcome to the podcast. I'm super excited to work with you today, man. For people who aren't familiar with you, or maybe they don't know you as well as our friend Todd, who got us connected that way, man, would you mind filling them in a bit about the story, the journey that you've been on these last several years surrounding the sport of ninja?
Yeah, Dan, no problem. Appreciate it. Appreciate the time. Thanks for the opportunity to be on the show. Yeah, man. So as we talked about in the past, it's been a long journey, long time. To fast forward some of the early life, I grew up in a place where it was basketball or street stuff. I stayed with the street stuff a little bit too long, longer than I needed to. By the time I was in my early 20s, I saw that I needed something to change, something to change both my where my life was going and also my health and fitness habits. But first, I needed to change life because without that, it's much harder to change fitness. And I stumbled across an opportunity with EA Sports to test their video games, and that started me on where I'm still at in a 20-year career of video game development. So as I got into that career, habits started to clean up, and I saw the opportunity to bring fitness back into the center. During the early years, I was heavy into basketball, AAU, and during those times, I was extremely fit, and I was always super agile, always had like this freak ability for like extreme sports, like trampoline flipping and things like that. So when I was starting EA and I saw the opportunity, I got into bodybuilding, just slow stuff, you know what I'm saying? Getting the rust off of the body while still trying to kick a lot of those negative habits. And as the years started to go by, I started to get more in tune with the progress that the fitness was making, going from, just regular ego lifting to really understanding how the body works, making mind-body connections, and really looking at how can I improve my posture and my form first and foremost. Throughout those early years, I was also heavy into video games, as the career might suggest. And over time, you don't even realize it. You start to form that good old hump in the C back. And people would tell me, hey, man, like stand up straight. I would always have my shoulders up like this because when I was smaller, to kind of match up with the bigger guys, I would always flex my traps going into like rooms and whatnot. And that led to my brain thinking that was the way to stand. So like by the time I was 20, people would say, yo, put your shoulders down. And I'd be like, yo, I am. I don't know what you're talking about. And it wasn't until I like looked at a picture, it gave me like this third person kind of view to see that, my posture was wrecked. And one of the first things that I wanted to work on while in this fitness journey was, again, not just lifting the weights to push the power, but to really make the body stronger. So I switched to a more Bruce Lee than Arnold-like philosophy, and I started chasing that mind-body connection. And slowly I started to see all kinds of issues that I was having with my lower back pain to knee pain to neck pain started to melt away, and my posture starting to straighten out, and then out started to come muscles in a form that I never thought I would have in my younger years. So I think it was around about 10 years of that when, I started to get more into calisthenics, and I was bodybuilding and doing calisthenics. I was doing things like benching, reps of 315 and going and doing 15 muscle ups, 15 dips, and like, crazy amounts of pull-ups. And I started to get more into that complete kind of picture of fitness when I started to get not bored, but I wanted to have some sort of purpose. You know what I'm saying? Like the body was strong, it was super functional. I was faster than I had ever been. I was able to do things that I wasn't able to do in my younger years. So, I was looking for something, and doing calisthenics. I was also, and didn't bring this up, but throughout that entire journey of growing up and becoming EA, had been a rapper the entire time. Big into hip hop, big into real hip hop, spitting and ciphering and all that good stuff. And I would do a ton of music videos in the Tampa area, and I started to become pretty well known in Tampa, opening up for like Talib Kweli and Tech Nine and things, and people of that stature. When I came across an individual who would shoot music videos for me. His name was Mr. Mr. Paparazzi, Robert Richards. And he introduced me to Rico Rivera, who was the very first ninja that I had ever met. And this was around 2014. And Rico and I started talking, and we started talking fitness and like what each other does for our routine. And he saw how capable I was from a calisthenic standpoint. He was like, "Man, you'd be awesome on Ninja Warrior." Just so happened to be that over the past like 3-4 years around that time, my wife and I were completely engulfed in Ninja Warrior. We were always watching the sport from the early days and the boot camp seasons to, again, after season 3, 4, when it came to NBC. And, the likes of Flip Rodriguez and Rico and even Cajun Cowboy Todd, we used to always watch them on TV. And that was always something my wife would be like, "Man, you'd kill it." But, I never knew how to get into that arena. And meeting Rico, who was famous at the time for being the T-Rex ninja. He was that first guy who did the ninja video with the T-Rex that got millions upon millions of views and has been copied for decades since. Meeting him and getting into that vibe set it off. And one day he invited me to a gym called Ninja Fit Gym in Orlando. And that was a day, July 28, 2016. I'll never forget. You know what I'm saying? Like, I walked into that gym. I saw people swinging around, people flying around, people welcomed me with open arms, started showing me a bunch of technique, and that was it. I was hooked. Um, the sport at the time was still mostly contained to the show, though some things had started externally, like the National Ninja League and UNAA. It was still mostly, when you said Ninja Warrior, people would just think about the show. So it hadn't evolved to where it is today. If people watch Ninja right now, this is the result of all of the coaching that we did from the kids that were 10 and 11 back in 2015 and 16, and the sport has evolved into something way more complex and just deep. But back then, there was still a lot of people just figuring things out. And at Ninja Fit, I had a few people showing me the ropes, a few in particular, the owners of the gym, and a few friends that were really showing me technique. But outside of that, we had to learn a lot on our own. So I started training, getting deep into it, going there 2-3 times a week, and eventually it took over as my main gym. I was still kind of splitting between that and the place where I would go bodybuild the most, and I ended up switching to Ninja 24/7. At the time, I was about 175, 180. I was much thicker in terms of muscle, and I had more power from squat and deadlifting. But I knew for Ninja, I would need to get down to a fine balance of, still having that power, but also being a lower body weight to where I can hang for much longer and do much more complicated things hanging from my fingertips. So I lost about 15 pounds or so in total over like the next year and a half as I was training mostly Ninja. And then the opportunity to get on the show came up, and that was for season 9, I think it was. Memory's a little faded. It's been 10 years. I think it was season 9 for Daytona. And once I got accepted for the show, there was like a 3-month period leading up to the taping. So I got even deeper into training, met a lot of, legendary ninjas around my way, like John Brown, Mac Roche, Rico, and was just kicking up training preparing for the show, and I was building a lot of hype. You know what I'm saying? Like I had a lot of power, and bringing that to Ninja was something that, there was only a few people really bringing that kind of power to the sport at the time. So I had a lot of hype, but no experience going into that first season in Daytona. It was the first time I had ever done Ninja at like 3 in the morning at 32 degrees or like 29 degrees. It was something crazy in an April at Daytona, where again, that was my first experience, and it really sent like a rude awakening to me, to where, you need to start training for all of these types of scenarios, all of these environments. And to make a long story short, I fell far short of my potential in that year. I fell on like the third obstacle. And it was an obstacle that I trained on 1,000 times over at my gym. A mixture of the nerves and all that environment hit. So that next year, I went to attack all of those things. And when Miami came up the next year, which I think was season 10, I was feeling much more ready, much more prepared. Also, in that year of going into season 10, I transitioned from just being a member of that Ninja Gym, while again, I was still having a full-time career at EA Sports, building Madden and college video games. But I came to have an opportunity to become a co-owner, or co-owners, my wife and I, in the gym. And we ended up taking that opportunity. And by the time season 10 came around, I was a co-owner of Ninja Fit Gym. So we'd add that to the list of things, and it was a pretty busy time frame for me, but I still had the goal in mind of progressing and winning Ninja Warrior. And Miami came around, and the same things kind of happened. Not the training, I was way more prepared, but the nerves got the best, and I fell far short of the potential. I'll never forget a producer that I didn't even know his name came up to me and was like, "Richie, my money's on you to win the whole thing." And I just looked at him like, "Yeah, I appreciate you, Brad." It was getting me hyped, but I was just like, man, I know this sport. I respect the hell out of this sport. There's some people with tons of experience. Hopefully, I can get there. And again, no, I fell short that second season. And though they showed me on the intro, like a little intro piece, my wife and I, they ended up not showing the entire run because they wanted to save it for the run where I really had like a breakout season. But that would actually be the last time that I would be on the show. I went to focus on the gym, and if anybody knows running a business like a gym and trying to grow it to what we did, to eventually having more than 100 members while having a full-time career, developing video games, while having a family, because that is what I am first and foremost. I have my wife, who helped me along this whole journey, stay up on the straight and narrow, and help get my fitness in check. And she too is also a fitness warrior along the ride with me. We eventually had kids that also came on the ride, but also demanded time. So all of the time was going to all of these things, and I found myself putting more time in training everybody else around me than I was in training myself, which was fine because we were building a ninja community that, are some of the best times in my life, and some things that I would never take back. But the fact of the matter was training all of these people to be eventually some of the best ninjas in the world, because we did have many a student that now are amongst the best ninjas in the world. I wasn't, focusing as much as I should have been on myself. And with Ninja, if you don't compete, you don't get that experience. You could train all you want in backyard events and backyard comps, but if you're not competing, when the lights are on you and you're expected to do it right then and there, then you're not really progressing that experience part, which was one of the things that I needed to progress the most. And everything was going, good with the gym and all of that good stuff. Even though that was happening, I was still preparing for season 12. It was for Ninja Warrior, because I got out, I skipped 11 to focus on the business, and I got back in with 12, and I had got the call that I was going to be on, and we were preparing to go to St. Louis, I think, that year for season 12, when COVID happened, and, everything shut down. My job ended up working from remote, and everything just completely changed. So with Ninja Warrior, they ended up canceling what they were going to do, and they ended up pushing it back and doing like a completely different format. I couldn't do that new format. I couldn't leave for as long as they were asking me to leave for, so I did not get on the show with season 12. But I had to focus on the gym. The gym was, again, in the middle of COVID. The career was still going. I was still working at EA, but most of the energy had to go to making sure that we didn't go under. And we didn't lie or do anything like that in any of our applications to get like an enormous amount of money that would have helped us still to this day. We ended up only getting pretty much like 60% of 1 month's total expense. That's pretty much the amount of support that we ended up getting throughout that entire time. So we had to go all in full time. We had no more employees. All of them quit. So all of the owners, outside of one employee, somebody was very important to us. All of the owners had to go pretty much full time with our careers and everything. And it was something that, again, really burned us out. I love all the people with the gym. It was a very much a family environment, something that we all look at as some of the fondest memories of life. But it was also one of the most draining times where I would be working 10 hours at EA, go and work 6 hours at the gym, drive an hour and a half home, and do the rinse and repeat for 5, 6, sometimes 7 days a week. And it got to the point where in 2021, we had an opportunity to get out of the business while still overhead. And to make a long story short, we took it. And since then, since closing down the gym, I think in April of 21, I built a facility in my backyard. It was a legit gym, 1,100 square feet, 14-foot roofs with 21-foot gavel. And I was ready to get training now, focusing more so on my family and myself, like we haven't been able to. So I was really excited about getting back on the show, even though I was turning 38 or 39 by then. I still had all of my strength, still had all of my focus, hadn't had any major injury outside of losing my right hamstring, which sounds major, but I didn't go through surgery. And it, though it did take away some of my explosiveness, I still had all of my upper body strength, and I was able to go around. The hamstring eventually getting back up to 400-pound deadlifts at 160 pounds. So it was in decent shape. When I was about a week from we were just starting training in the gym. I had just finished building everything. We were just opening it up to do our first training video, inside and outside, because I also have some stuff outside. When we were filming it too, I came to a fall doing something I have done 1,000 times over. It was a long day of work. We got out there and my head wasn't quite in the right spot. And I looked at it for like 3 seconds and I said, man, I'm going to do that again. And that was the mistake that, whenever you fall and you always tell me, let me get one more, that's when everything happens. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to listening to karma and to your body and going, man, let me just stop. Let me take it easy for the rest of the day. I looked and I said, no, I'm going to do that again. I'm going to get this move. And when I tried it again, I fell from about 8 feet up flat on my stomach, and I used, which was a natural reaction, my hands to stop the pressure like a push-up. The thing is, my right arm got hot under my body as opposed to being to the right and the left, and it essentially just exploded my right tricep. Like my whole arm just came down, and when my body fell on it, I felt like a balloon, like pop by the elbow. And I was in such good shape at the time that it wasn't like an extreme pain, but I knew something was wrong. I get up, again, it's on video. I get up in the video, I like hold my arm and I look up and I walk away, not realizing that pretty much everything changed at that point. I went and got an MRI, and it showed that my tricep was fully blown out, fully detached. They were going to need to repair it. Something I had never really went through a major surgery like that. Beforehand, my max bench was 345 at 165 pounds. Again, I could do handstand push-ups. I could do like 20 free standing handstand push-ups at the time. I could planche. And I was worried that I was going to lose the majority of that. Leading up to the surgery, like the day before the surgery, I have video of it. I was able to do a full horizontal planche, and I was still able to do handstand push-ups with a completely blown out tricep. So I was real confused as to like, should I do surgery? Should I not? But ended up going in, and the decision to do the surgery was the right one. My surgeon was amazing. And he ended up putting in a graft that, through his words, cleaned up the mess that was in there and should have set me on the path to full recovery. If I would have recovered fully, I could have got all of the strength back and would have continued on gaining strength from there. But like 4 weeks after the surgery. I still have the all of the dressing on, and I still had stitches in, if I remember right. Still had the stitches in, and I'm out back just doing basic footwork training with my daughter, showing her some basic footwork, ninja footwork, like quad steps, left, right. When one of the quads, and people from the gym will remember these quads, they used to kick them out all the time. But one of the quads, I kicked it out from under me, just showing her what to do. And like everything stopped, complete slow motion. I'm in the middle of the air looking at like dust particles flying through the light. And I'm just like, man, I'm about to tear this thing again. And everything goes back to normal time. I hit the ground and I let out a scream that my family will never forget. And about a week later, I get the MRI and it shows that it's again detached. So I go to the surgeon and I'm as defeated as I've ever been at a surgeon, ever been, period, because I've never really dealt with surgeons. And I just felt like I failed him, I failed myself, I failed my family, with this just stupid mistake. I should have just been just waiting, just stop and not doing anything, just completely healing, focusing on that. And I was, but it just stretched that line a little bit too much. And here I am, like the surgery never happened, back to square one. But the surgeon looks at me, Carl Seeger, and he goes, "Hey, man, we put a nice graph up in there, and though you retort, I think with your training methods, with your health, and with how your body is, I think that it'd be better if we just skipped the surgery and just tried physical therapy and see how you healed." I was a bit nervous, but we said, okay. That was, I think that was December of 22. By March of 23, I did a couple of months of physical therapy, and I was again back to doing my handstand push-ups. I was again back to planching again, almost completely horizontal. And my bench, though it didn't get back up to the 345, it had got back up to 285, 305 max. And that was far from where I thought. I thought I would never even bench in the twos ever again. I thought that I was just going to have to settle in, and just dwindle down as I got into these older ages. But again, a few months in, though I wasn't perfect and I knew I would feel it for the rest of my life, I at least knew that I could work with this. You know what I'm saying? I could get back to it. So I started training full speed ahead at Ninja again, with the intention of trying to get on to season 16, I think it was, while also training my family. And that was probably the best part of it, was bringing my two kids, who were 10 and 6 at the time, into really deep into the sport of ninja and getting them fully capable along with my wife. And that's what I focused on up until this year, when I decided to get back into competing. I didn't get the call for season 17. Producers wanted a shorter video. I sent them a bunch of stuff. Bottom line is, it was more so me being procrastinating as opposed to like the ability. So I have full confidence that I'll get back onto the show within the next few seasons. But I saw that opportunity to just take another year to heal and to work on that experience that was hampering me back in the day. So after 8 years, 9 years of being a ninja, I decided to compete in my very first WNL season, which WNL is the World Ninja League. It's the biggest ninja league outside, biggest ninja league in the world, and it's the most popular ninja league outside of American Ninja Warrior, which is a show, while this is a full-fledged sport. And I started to compete in the Masters because my body couldn't compete with Elite. I had the technique and all the skills of Elite ninjas, but I needed to be realistic with the body. So competing with Masters was, again, the sport has evolved so much that every division, even Masters, is crazy exciting, has crazy capable athletes. Again, the people who are 40 years old, 41 years old, 5, 6 years ago, they were some of the best ninjas in the world on the show. So getting back into competing, I won like my first few competitions and won most of them leading up to regionals that I just did a few weeks ago for this season. Again, this is season 11, I think it is, season 10 or 11. And we competed in the Southeast regionals. Some of the best Masters ninjas. Todd was there. Good buddy Kevin Sunderland from Miami was there, and a few other heavy hitters in the Masters division. I ended up grabbing silver there. And I have full intention on becoming the number one 40-year-old ninja in the world at this season's World Championship, which is going to be June 20th, I think, through the 23rd in Greensboro, North Carolina. And that's what that's where my focus and my goals are aiming at right now. But as I had hinted to at the start of the call and in our previous talk, though the body did get a lot of rest during the tricep injury, I've already blew right through that rest, and the body's starting to fall apart again with the tricep. I had to make up for it with the left side of the body and transferring what would have been going there into other parts of the body, and that can lead to overload, and that's exactly what happened. To where since the tricep, I broke my right hand, and I've been suffering tons of tendonitis in the elbow and in the wrist area, and I'm pretty sure I have some torn fibers in the rotator cuff in my shoulder right now. So you add still maintaining the right tricep, still making sure that it doesn't get re-injured. Uh, Still dealing with my right hamstring, even though it was long ago, it's still something that is still a factor. Still dealing with my right broken hand, which snapped on me about 6, 7 months ago, and I just let heal on its own. And now, again, this whole left side all the way up to my neck, and trying not to tear my rotator cuff, which would take me out in surgery and have me probably go backwards again for another 6 months. I'm just trying to keep this ventriloquist dummy together for one more show, and
Oh
then I
my.
can heal.
Yeah, no, Richie, I mean, what an incredible journey you've been on, man. There's so much to unpack about this and just kind of
Yep.
running it back one by one here. I mean, first off, just the way you kind of fell into the ninja space, if you will, is absolutely extraordinary, right? You have this kind of natural fitness level that's come from a little bit of a bodybuilding background and then this calisthenics background as well. You mentioned handstands, you mentioned muscle ups. You're doing some of the very advanced, skilled calisthenics type movements that way. And it's one of those things that I found a lot of times when people get into something fitness related, where whether it's powerlifting, bodybuilding, strongman, calisthenics, there comes a point when you say, you know what, I want to be able to compete with this, right? Like there's
Yep.
that athletic side to individuals that way where, it's great to go through the motions and movements and train, but I think competition really brings out the best in people, right? And obviously, you work in the video game development space. One of the many things I think people love about sports games like that and sports in general is that competitiveness, the ability or the opportunity to compete against other people, bring out the best within yourself and others and see what are you truly made of. You've put in all this time for training. It's time to see, what does that payoff look like that way? And obviously, I think the fact that you had so many great people, whether that be in relation to Todd or Rico or anyone else that helped get you into that space that way, I think it makes that like journey, if you will, a little bit more addicting, in my opinion, right? When you've got good people pushing you into something that's really, really good. Now, obviously, there's some injuries along the way. We'll get to that. But I think when you have good people pushing you into a healthy, competitive thing that brings out the best within yourself, only good things are going to come from that. Now, obviously, you had some obstacles along the way, right? You mentioned the experience of owning a gym and surviving COVID with a business, if you will. And that's obviously something that challenged so many small business owners everywhere. But it sounds like you're able to get through it. Now, again, you mentioned that you were able to kind of sell afterwards and kind of move on, and it wasn't exactly what you planned. And I'm sure you didn't sleep a whole lot. You were burning the candle at both ends,
Oh
putting
yeah,
in long
100%.
hours day after day. But the important thing is all that persistence paid off, right? Just like in training, you trained for years before you got onto the Ninja Warrior stage. Same thing is true in business, right? You put in a ton of hours, a ton of time, probably lost track of it all in the moment. And eventually you got out of the situation that you were in and into what you were after. And obviously, you mentioned family as well. That probably led to a better work-life balance
Oh
just
yeah,
from a family standpoint in there.
definitely.
And then in relation to the injuries, man, I mean, one of the many things I've learned is that, in life you cannot stop the waves that come at you, but you can learn how to surf them. And I think it's one of those things that injuries are likely going to impact everyone at some point or another. Some are a little bit more severe, some are a little bit more mild. But, it's incredibly common to experience some kind of orthopedic musculoskeletal injury that way. And in your case, you mentioned the hand, the triceps, the shoulder. You've definitely had a lot, but what's important and what I want people to take away from your experience is you stayed persistent and you stayed dedicated and committed throughout that whole time, right? You knew what your end goal was and you kept pushing and working hard to get there. A lot of times when people get injured, they kind of tap out and they say, you know what, that's it, I'm done. And if that's you, then you're right. You're not going to get back to where you want to be without the grind, the work, and the sweat equity that it takes to overcome some of these different obstacles that come in your way from injury that way. And I think your ability after re-injuring a reconstructed, repaired triceps, if you will, the fact that you're able to get back to muscle ups and handstand push-ups and benching 305 that way is a testament to just your overall work ethic, drive, and commitment, man. And I think that, obviously that leads you to success in sports like ninja, but obviously it leads to success in pretty much any other walk of life you pursue that way, whether that be family related or personal endeavors or business or whatever. I think that once you have that drive and work ethic and you have the power of the community around you, nothing can stop you. Quick break, because if you're a rehab professional sick of burnout, this could be your answer. Engage Movement's blended practice model is a proven system built by Dr. Ray Gorman, a PT who walked away from the 55-hour-a-week grind and built a blended practice model that doubled his income while working less than 25 hours a week, and he didn't have to rely on the traditional way of selling sessions to do so. It's all about blending remote and in-person services, stacking monthly recurring revenue, and building a business that finally supports your life, not the other way around. This model isn't just theory. Real providers, including myself, are creating lives of freedom and flexibility without being tied to their schedule. And as a listener, you get free access to the complete training. DM my name, Dan, to @RayGormanDPT on Instagram and receive your free breakdown on the model.
Yeah, man. Appreciate those words, Dan. That's pretty much the notion. When I was working out, just focusing on bodybuilding and calisthenics, I was building the body to be completely protected from injury. And if I would have stuck to just that, I have full confidence that by this age, I would have not experienced any major injury up until this point. I'm extremely safe and tuned into my mind-body connection when I'm lifting. And that's something that I prided and centered my entire bodybuilding routine around was, again, form, functionality, and doing things that will avoid injury. But that wasn't, again, like you said, that wasn't the thing that was going to fuel my competitive nature. I wanted to really put this thing to work. And when I made that commitment, I knew that this is going to bring wear and tear to the body. I am going to experience some form of injury here in the near future, and I'm just going to have to work through it as they would come, and not even realizing, because I'm pretty sure I've had major injuries in the past as like a 22-year-old. I'm pretty sure I fractured my fibula, but I know that I broke it. But back in the day, we didn't go to doctors, and I didn't go to doctors at all. I walked through that fractured fibula with a cane for like 3 months, and I was back to it. But when I decided to go through the sport, I knew that I was going to go through some of these injuries, but you don't really know how much it can test your mentality and your ability to get back up until you do it. And again, at any time, I could have said, I'm not getting paid for any of this mess. Let me just go ahead and stop and ride into the sunset, focusing on bodybuilding or whatnot. But no, I have a goal in mind. And as long as my body is working, regardless of, again, if I stopped right now, I could get back to bodybuilding. I could start increasing and progressing in those areas, but that's not my goal. My goal is to become the number one 40-year-old ninja in the world, and then get back to the show and get back to elite level training. And in that, whatever obstacle comes my way, I'm going to have to topple it in that manner, in the manner that I just did over the past few years, or there's going to come a time where I just have to throw in the towel. But that time's not now.
No, and I'd imagine that time is just difficult to impossible to think about, right? By all accounts, you're defying the odds, right? There's a lot of people that'll say, well, after college, a lot of athletes just give up on sport. And it's like, that's not the case anymore. Or it shouldn't
Yeah,
be
no.
the case anymore. It's like, look at people like Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers,
Yep.
some of these other individuals that are performing into their 40s, or LeBron James is another good example of that, right? Like, there's a lot of individuals out there defying this whole concept of aging and
Yep.
athleticism that way. And I would say you're a testament to that as well, right? Like there's probably not a ton of 40-year-olds that can do the kind of physical things that you do, let alone the physical things that you do following the injuries that you've had. But if you stay consistent and you never lose sight of that athlete title, right? Become an athlete for life, then you can do crazy, incredible things, right? And I'm sure that's something that your parent or your family probably sees all the time too, right? Your kids are probably like, "Oh my gosh, look at what my dad can do," right? You're
Yeah.
probably the coolest kid on the block, coolest guy on
Yeah.
the block.
Yeah, no, 100%. And when I say hang up the towel, I mean hang up the ninja towel, because something I will never do is stop moving. Like I will never stop moving, never stop having fitness as a centerpiece of my life. It might not revolve around ninja when I'm 70, though if I'm still capable, I will be doing ninja at 70. I have a few colleagues, believe it or not, that are between 60 and 70 that still compete with us. And they do it, they're such inspirations. So I would never like hang up the physical towel. I see, something that is a difference between like the past generations and now is, again, we didn't see that kind of, oh, I'm 30, this is it. You know what I'm saying? 30 is the start of the end of the road. 40 is the start of the end of the road. I feel like our generation doesn't or tries not to think like that as much, at least in my case. And the least that you think about that, the more that you realize that those were just mentality shells the entire time. People in the 60s and 70s, if they knew of these techniques, of these methods of proper diet and how to keep your body functional for long periods of time, I'm pretty sure you would have saw a larger population of folks continuing physical activity into their 60s, 70s, and 80s. A lot of the inspiration I got was from athletes of that time who did not listen to a lot of that BS and defied the odds and defied a lot of the regular myths of, when you're at a certain age, you need to hang it up. And it was in those stories where I saw the opportunity to, hey, this is something that is feasible. This is something that is viable. Taking athletic prowess into your 50s, 60s, and 70s, if done right, is a possibility. And I just think that more of our generation saw that, but it's been something that has been there the entire time. And again, a lot of the 50s and 60 and 70-year-old folks that I used to see at the gym that were still in hellacious shape, and they would come and tell me, "Man, you're in such good shape," and I would look at them and be like, "Nah, bro, like you are the goal." You know what I'm saying? Like you're what I'm chasing. Hopefully, I can last that long to get there. But here, being now 42, I feel like, yeah, as long as I can move, as long as I can function, even if I could just move my pinky, I'm gonna have one buff pinky, because that that's the key to life, man. I've seen people who stopped moving and they stopped living almost the minute that they decided to stop moving, and that's just it's just not going to be me.
Exactly, exactly. You can never stop that way. And I think that's one of those things too. Like you look at all the different endeavors that you're in, again, business, ninja, sport, family, whatever it is that way. The day that you stop moving is the day all of those things just kind of fall apart. Now, not to say there's not going to be hard days, along the journey by any means, but the day that you stop putting forth the effort, the day that you stop caring about all of those things is the day that ultimately you kind of tap out of the fight that way. You're
Yeah,
done, right? And it's like as long as you never tap out, as long as you keep fighting, even though it's going to be difficult at times, you can find success in any endeavor that you're pursuing that way. Again, whether that's the business, whether that's ninja, whether that's training in general, family, or even like your rap career as well, right? Like I didn't mention that before, but like you were working with some of the biggest names in the rap industry that way. And it's again a testament to what you can get if you work really, really hard and stay consistent for a long time. It's one of those things that I think the more we buy into the value of hard work and the more consistent we are with it, the more successful we become, right? One of the things that I see in the industry quite often now is people are talking about how well, at least in the sports space, PT, SNC, ATC, that we all need to be paid more. And it's like, one of the things I'm not going to stop doing is doing the work, right? Like I have kind of like you, the entrepreneurship side going where I don't get paid unless my clinic is getting reimbursed from insurance companies.
Yeah.
And there's times when we didn't get paid for work that I did. And guess what? It sucks, but I've still got to go into work the next day.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't get paid for work that I had done, I still got to show up because that's my job. I have to provide for other people. And the thing that leads you to the success that you're after, the thing that led me to get to where I am today is continuing to push the rock up the hill. Yeah, some days it feels like Sisyphus, but the more you push the rock, the stronger you're going to become.
Yeah, yeah, 100%, man. 100%.
Now, going back to some of the other stuff that you mentioned that way, just overall, the transitions and the trying times that way, man. Obviously, you were successful on the business front, but there's some people out there that I know that are kind of balancing athletics, family, and business. And a lot of them tend to feel overwhelmed, which I think is pretty common in the
Yes.
business space that way when you have all of those things. Walk me through how you kind of approached, handled those situations that came up when you're trying to make it in business, trying to make it from a fitness and ninja
Yep.
side, but also balancing all of these things with family.
Well, one of the first things I needed to do was prioritize and then put my time towards the top priority items that came up on that list. And unfortunately, like I've been a writer since I could write, from short stories to books to video game reviews and things like that, to again eventually to rapping. I started rhyming when I was 9 years old, and kept with the pen all the way through. I think about like 30. I think it was like 34. But when I got the business for the gym, I really had to kind of take a step back. And though I still had a lot of things going, I couldn't continue all of them at the same level that I was at, that I wanted to do all the most important things at. So music was the one that I did have to kind of put in the back burner. I recorded my last album, I think, in 2017. Also went through a few things with music. One of my best friends growing up, and music partner in crime, passed away. Passed away of health-related issues, which again even fueled my want to push this fitness thing even more. So it was around that time where, again, if I was going to go into the business and with the career and the family and music, I knew that one of them had to fall off, and music unfortunately had to be the one. The logic behind it was I'll be a writer for the rest of my life. I'll be able to rhyme when I'm 80, 70. Might not be doing videos or anything that people want to watch or listen to, but for myself, I can do it, and still find the happiness that writing would bring. So I did have to put that to the side, but still, just having video game career, family, and the business, those three alone are still a lot to handle. And when I put the music to the side, I had already been for about a few years, put all of the bad habits that I had brought with me from my younger age, and I was trying to stop and completely clean up throughout fitness, but didn't happen. Throughout the first like 6 or 7 years of fitness, I was still drinking. I hadn't done most of the hard drugs that I used to do. I used to do every hard drug you could think of, and that didn't involve a needle. But alcohol, which to me is the worst of any drug ever, was still very much a fixture in my life, leading up to this time where I was just like, man, I need to stop all of the things that are taking my brain away from these priority items. So going out to the club, in hip hop, I didn't just go out to the club. I used to throw shows in downtown Orlando. I was also a club promoter, which you can add that to the list of things, because promoting shows was also its own job outside of being an artist as well, dealing with the artist and building these shows every month. I used to have a show in a club called Sapphire, and it used to be a monthly show, and I used to take up a whole lot of energy. And in that, I would have opportunities to drink, be around cigarette smoke, and just be around overall bad habits. And one of the first things that allowed me to continue on with the career, the fitness, and the family was to kill all of those bad habits once and for all. Not spend my time on anything that wasn't those three things. outside of video games. Video games is the only thing that I do leisurely, but I do that here with my family. So I didn't go out, wasn't going out to the clubs, wasn't going out late night, didn't go out to drink, stopped drinking. And that to me is a key factor in being able to keep all of those things going. Because if I was drinking, if I was going out, there would have been no way I could still progress in my career, keep a happy family, and also build a business from the ground up, or not really from the ground up, but to build it from where it was to where we eventually got it. And when I first came into owning the gym, we had about roughly 30 members. By the time we finished, we had almost 130, which wasn't a easy thing. It took a lot of effort over a 3-year period through COVID to get to those numbers. And again, it would have been impossible without leaving all of the stuff that I deemed a waste of time. And in that, unfortunately, and I know a lot of homies is going to look at this and just be like, "Oh, that explains it." But I stopped talking to a lot of people, man. In that life that I used to live, you could imagine that I was very social, had a lot of friends, knew a lot of people, networked a lot, and I had a lot of folks that I would talk to on a regular basis. And I shrunk that circle down to just the most important friends in life. Not that, bro, I still love and think about everybody that I've ever interacted with in life, and I wish nothing but the best. And uh, I still stalk scroll on Facebook. I don't be posting on Facebook, but I still keep up with everybody to make sure everybody's doing good. But I didn't like, I can't put my focus into all of that and still expect top focus to go into the most important things, mostly my family in that case. So I killed all the bad habits. I shrunk down my social circles down to just the most important people. My parents, brought them back into the social circle. You know what I'm saying? As they were getting older, I started to spend more time with the things that were most important. And to tell you the truth, those are the main things that allowed me to have the time to focus on those top three things. Without that, I would get 8 hours of sleep every night. You know what I'm saying? Which is super important for an older athlete going into their older age, trying to keep their body together. Back when I was in my early 30s, I was maybe getting 3 hours of sleep, mostly if you're talking about in the high time of my video game career. I was working the most hours I ever worked in a single week was 120. The most hours I ever worked in a single like period. And trust me, the video game industry ain't like this no more. Work-life balance, we've worked a lot to fix this, but it was 38 hours straight. I went into work and 38 hours later I left. I was sleeping, like standing up in the middle of the daylight as my wife was coming to pick me up. Um, Bottom line, I went from having no sleep to getting a lot of sleep. So I was having 8 hours of sleep. I would wake up, go to work. After work, I would focus on the business, and then I would train. And it was just nonstop, those three things: work, business, train, work, business, train, work, business, train. Keep my diet clean, knowing that I was getting that 8 hours of sleep. Uh, I was maximizing that aspect of it. So I needed to make sure that what I put into the body was also being maximized. Again, I had completely stopped the alcohol around 2016, I think it was 15, 16. Also around 2016, I went full vegan, which a lot of people don't quite realize that I've been now vegan about 8 or 9 years because I still got muscle. Again, the whole stupid myths about veganism and losing muscle. Throughout my entire ninja career and even my bodybuilding and calisthenics in the last few years of that, I was full vegan. And now I'm going on 9 years. And going vegan at the time took a lot of the inflammation out of my joints. I was at the starting of my ninja career, I was feeling an intense amount of tendonitis in my elbows and my shoulders and my wrists, to where it's coming back now after years of wear and tear. But if I would have never made those changes back then, I would have never been able to get over that to get to this point. So again, I got nothing against meat eaters. I used to be a brisket fiend. I still love the smell of brisket. My son still eats a good filet, and I still encourage that from time to time. But changing to become a vegan was a big piece of not only keeping me at that weight that I wanted to stay at that 160 to 165, but also again fine tuning the overall body fat ratio, and also again keeping a lot of the dairy products out that, not that I didn't realize at the time, but I soon came to realize were causing a lot of the inflammation in my joints. again, killing those habits, shrinking that circle, fixing up the diet, allowed me to put full focus on those three things. And I just made those three things life. I made them habit. I no longer craved anything that would kind of take me a step back in that fitness journey. All I craved was maximizing those three things. And before I knew it, a decade had passed. And again, I lost the want, the mental connection that I had to those things. And now I'll never look back, and my life now is what it's going to be for the next however long I stay on this earth. Um, but yeah, it was all of that fine tuning, and if I didn't fine tune all of those things, there would have been no way that those three things and my priority, the family, the fitness, and the business, would have been able to flourish.
It sounds like you really need to be able to have this ability to look at yourself in the mirror and be totally upfront and honest with yourself about the things that you're doing
Yes.
and what needs to stay and what needs to go, and not just personal habits, but also people, as you mentioned. And that's something that I found myself as well is, every single year I see my circle, as in the overall reach of my network, getting larger. I know more people, I meet more people. Take you, for example, right? You, Todd, great connections to come about this year. However, that inner circle, the ones that are super close and tight, the family, the friends that get to see it all, the highs, the lows, the ups and
Yes.
downs, that gets smaller. The broad circle, the broad network gets larger. However, that inner circle, if you will, continues to get smaller for me. It's one of those things that I think we kind of find as we, get older that way, that not every single person we meet needs to know all the intricate
Yeah.
details of our life that way. And I think one of the things I found as well is if you let the wrong people in, sometimes you get a little bit burned by it, right?
Oh
It's
yeah.
one of those things where I like outside perspectives and opinions, and I'm always trying to learn. I'm always trying to make decisions that make the most sense for not just myself, but all those around me. But if you have the wrong voice in your ear, right, it's kind of like that angel on one shoulder, devil on another, right? Make sure you're listening to the voice of reason and not the
Yeah.
wrong voice that way, I'd say. And the other piece I want to touch on real quick is just the overall nutrition element, right? You brought up cutting out alcohol. You brought up switching to a more plant-based diet that way and just lowering systemic inflammation, which obviously made you feel a lot better by the sounds. And that's something that does come up when we do talk nutrition on the podcast, right? There is something to be said about cutting out alcohol in particular, especially in relation to athletic performance, right? There is not I can't think of any positives that come from drinking alcohol in relation to athletic performance and longevity. If
No.
there is something out there, please send it to me. I'd love to see it,
No.
love to learn about it, but
There
I
won't
can't
be.
think of any off the top of my head. That came up when we were chatting with Jill Lane on the podcast earlier this year on sports nutrition, and she was like, "Look, I would recommend just cut it out." And yes, it can be challenging, especially if you've done it for a long time. And I get it, if you're in college, going out on the weekend, that sort of thing. But those tough choices are necessary. They're
Oh yeah.
opportunity costs that you need to give up in order to achieve that higher level of success that you're after, right? The thing about all of these things that we've talked about, your rep career, your business endeavors, ninja training, all of them cannot be bought. They're earned with a lot of sweat equity and hard work. And if you want those things, you have to sacrifice some of those more fun things like the nights out in the club. It's unfortunate, but it's the truth. You have to find those things that you have to give up in order to kind of make way for those things that you just can't up and buy with money that way, if you will. And I think that the more people kind of understand and realize that concept, the better off they're going to be. And obviously, it carries over into success in any endeavor. I've said that a few times, but I'll pick on Ninja in particular, specific in this case. You mentioned that you had to go on the Ninja show at like 3 in the morning, and I know when I was talking with Todd, he said his film times are usually like 4 or 5 in the morning that way.
Hmm.
If you're 3, 4, 5 a.m. looks like getting wasted in the club instead of like waking up to train or just sleeping
Yeah.
so that you can train, it's not going to go well, unfortunately. It's just a matter of priorities and making sure your habits align with them.
Yeah, 100%. And drinking is not an easy thing to just leave behind. And in my case, family of alcoholics, grandfather, father, all of us deep alcoholics, like diagnosed alcoholics. I started drinking when I was 11 or 12. I started smoking when I was 9. I started drinking when I was 12. So by the time I was ready to stop, I had 20 years of drinking. So it ain't like I was oh, he only did it for his college years. It's a lot easier to stop. No, it was something that I was a diagnosed alcoholic. I didn't get withdrawal like other folks have, like I've seen other folks do, probably because by that time I had already adopted so much positive habits that was the last one to really give. So I wasn't going to go through as bad a withdrawal, but it was something that most people didn't think I was going to be able to do. My wife, she definitely didn't think I was going to be able to do it. But it's something that, again, if you believe that it can be done and you believe in what you are trying to do in order to the goal you're trying to reach, and that being your one obstacle, it can be done. And you'll see the benefits on the other side. You'll never want to drink again. Like I never had a rush. Mostly when my friends would be drunk and stumbling over and not even able to pronounce their name and birth date. Like there was nothing attractive about that anymore. You know what I'm saying? Nothing. It was just like, man, I need to go back to doing that, man. I need to go back to waking up in my own vomit or almost dying because somebody didn't flip me over. You know what I'm saying? To throw up. I was in that kind of situation. When it came to the rest of the drugs, as extreme as I am with Ninja to try to be the best, I used to be that with the bad habits. I used to always try to be the heaviest drinker, try to be the one who would take the most off of the table per se, to be the number one bad habit influencer, and that is something that you can turn around. Trust me, if y'all would have saw me, I could have been at the 42 years old using all of these things as excuses by this age. Oh, I went through this, went through that, so I wouldn't be able to do this. I couldn't do that because of this. Those are just excuses, man. You need to turn those things into reasons for why you changed, and not holding them against. I got friends right now. We went through the same life, and they're just like, man, I couldn't have did what you did because of X, Y, and Z. It's like, no, it was the same life, same thing. If you would have made the decision, you could have done it. If you wanted it enough, you could have done it. And you still can. And that's always something I try to push forward. But yeah, not easy. Wasn't easy.
Absolutely. Now, I want to kind of dive into the ninja a little bit more real quick. And in relation to the training, what were kind of your strong suits on the obstacles or things that you kind of were challenged by? And what was kind of your like signature? What were you known for in the ninja
Oh
space
man,
that
I
way?
came in known for my big laches, man. At the time, I think like the world record, which again, the sport has cleaned up and got much more organized to where records, like the real world record, is what actually stands. But at the time, like in 2015, I think the world record for a bar to bar lache was like 11 feet. And if you know what a lache is now, you know that my son, my 13-year-old son can do a 12-foot lache now. But at the time, it was only like 11 and a half feet. And I got West 2, Stuart Moore, who was a newscaster here in West 2, to come to the gym and watch me break that record live on the news. And I hit 12 feet, I think it was, which actually wasn't the record. I knew of people who could go more, but they just didn't go into Guinness at the time. So that was the thing that I was most known for, was my big power, and that translating into ninja, translating into big long laches, which again is swinging from one bar to another. Salmon ladder, I was able to skip rungs almost immediately, which at the time, there wasn't too many people who were skipping rungs. And salmon ladder transfers, and anything that involved powerful lats was pretty much my strength. My weakness was pretty much anything that involved the fingertips, the other aspect. There's three main aspects of ninja, and that's your footwork, your lat pop power, and then your overall grip strength, your climber power per se. And the lat pop power can be more attributed to like gymnastic style power, and then your bottom half footwork could be more about parkour and balance. Um, and my overall weakness was my climbing grip at the time. And that was one of the things that I went to focus more on after I realized that it was a major weakness. During that season 8 year where I had all the hype in the world, once I fell, I knew that, all of the lat power in the world could do nothing if I didn't have my grip strength along for the ride. So I went into climbing, went into every kind of method that climbers use to increase their grip strength, from rice buckets to rollers to just anything for the fingertips, campus boards to climbing itself to a lot of cliffhanger training. To limiter training. We have a hold in Ninja called limiters where you're only holding on to like 10 millimeters of space. And to where I could barely hang doing those things. I eventually came to make those my strengths. I could do like 50 feet of limiters now. I could do the equivalent of like V6, V7, V8 type climbing. I can dead hang for 10 minutes, which back in the day, I could only dead hang for about a minute, minute and a half. So again, I had still a lot of that old school bodybuilding and calisthenic girth. And as I started to lose that and get down to that 160, 165, while training the grip, my grip strength started to exponentially grow. And yeah, things like the dead hangs and like there's an obstacle called the Iron Maiden in Ninja, which is taking like a PVC pipe on a metal pipe and going up, which is one of the harder overall grip obstacles. And I built that a long time ago, and I just started uh, working in that into my regular routine. And yeah, I just started to get stronger and stronger in those weaknesses. And before I knew it, I had a pretty even stat line in terms of what were my strengths and what were weaknesses. Yeah, that continues on still to this day. Still trying to keep all three of those things at an elite level. But again, if anybody watches NSC or any of the best ninjas in the sports, Ninja has evolved into craziness to where now you probably add a fourth, and that's hand-eye coordination and technique, to where we're taking all kinds of obstacles with us now and taking a cane and putting it into like a small circle like this big from a 6 foot jump. And that too is now something that since my injury, and since I was away from the sport, I had to fill in a lot of those blanks when I came back. So when I came back from the injury, focusing on advancing my tech was another one of those weakness kind of surges that I did. And as of right now, again, I'm pretty even keeled, and from a tech standpoint, I can hang with the most elite ninjas out there. It's just the body cannot. I see some of these 16-year-olds taking falls from like 10 feet up that I could do 3, 4 years ago and bounce right back up. But now I'm going to be a fly on a swatter. You know what I'm saying? Like it's going to take me a while. And when I do, I'm going to peel off the ground. So yeah, it's balancing that going into the older age while still being able to work on the weaknesses.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's knowing the things that you're naturally good at, and that comes with time and repetition, knowing what you have to work on more and continuing again, going back to that theme of hard work and the grind that it takes to get the success that you're after. You can't climb the ladder of success with your hands in your pockets. That's a great Arnold quote I like to reference there. And I realize we could probably talk about this all day long, dude. You have a wealth of knowledge. You've got so many incredible experiences across a diverse array of things that way. And I hope I did a decent enough job trying to string it all together that way, man. You're an incredible person. And I'm so glad that our boy Todd got us connected that way. Is there anything we missed or anything else you want to chat about today?
No, it's pretty much the gist. Yeah, probably one last thing is that I do still body build just as much as well, not just as much, but I still work it in. Like I don't just train ninja. So I still bench, still deadlift, still squat. That's one of the things that I personally could not leave behind. And it's some of the things that people might say, hey, man, if you do stop some of that stuff and focus more on ninja, you'll probably have more body able to do the ninja stuff. But I'm a firm believer of each supplementing the other, ninja supplementing the bodybuilding and bodybuilding supplementing the ninja. And I still do traditional bodybuilding workouts just as much because I do believe in that more holistic approach. Though I love the sport, I know one day I won't be able to compete. And at that point, bodybuilding is still going to be the thing that carries me all the way to the end. So I just wanted to throw that in there that I am still one of the bigger ninjas at 165, 160 to 170, uh, partly because I still do bodybuild and I still do hold that, not as a top priority, but I still do hold it close.
I like that. I like that a lot. It's great that you're able to do both as
Mhm.
well, right? And have the best of both worlds that way. And I mean, I get it, man. That bodybuilding side, it's difficult to leave something like that. So it's great, again, that you're able to balance both. and have kind of the best of both worlds from a competition standpoint that way. Richie,
Yeah.
for people who want to find out more about you, man, where can they find you at online?
I'm on Instagram, Infinite Traxx. I'm on Facebook, Richie Cortes. I'm on TikTok, Bodybuilding Ninja Family 4, BNF Cortez 4. That's where you should be able to still find me. I'm still a bit active on there, but like we was talking about, one of the things that I also had to kind of reduce on was my overall social media presence just to get my focus right. But over the past year, I have been getting back more on socials. So you can find me at those locations: Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, or YouTube, Richie Cortes on YouTube, or the Bodybuilding Ninja Family channel that we have on YouTube. I'm going to might be trying to grow it a little bit this year, something that, again, is kind of at odds at the work-life balance that I've developed. But if I can squeeze it in, you might be seeing me more on the socials. So yeah, you can find me there.
Awesome. We'll link to all of that in the description below. That way, if you didn't quite catch it, you can just click there and see everything that Richie is up to. This is amazing, man. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate you.